If you're thinking of buying, changing, updating, upgrading your anesthetic system in your hospital, watch this video first. I'm Dr. Anne Sylvestre with Focus and Flourish, and in this video, I am chatting with Dr. Nancy Brock, a board-certified anesthesiologist. Dr. Brock talks about the merits of the Circle system, the Bains system, the Pediatric Circle system, and the F circuit in this video. I think you will find it very informative.
Switching from a Bains circuit to a Pediatric Circle is one of those events in my practice that I was very glad that I initiated, and am grateful for the benefits that came from the Pediatric Circle. So it involves making a slight change to the way anesthesia is delivered, but basically the Pediatric Circle is the same design as the adult circle, except everything is smaller. So the Y is smaller, the Y piece adapter that goes on the endotracheal tube, and then the size of the hoses. What that means, though, is that you can manipulate your oxygen flow rate so that you can take advantage of a few key things that come with managing your flow rate. A big one is heat loss. So by reducing the amount of oxygen that's flowing to the patient and flowing out of the patient, you reduce the amount of body heat that's lost. And then the other is capnography, using capnography as a tool to generate some insight into what's going on with your patient. And when people ask me about capnography, I tell them, before you go buy a capnograph, initiate a Pediatric Circle in your practice, because otherwise you will be wasting your money to some extent. You won't be nearly getting the advantage of the Pediatric Circle that one would expect. When you reduce the oxygen flow rate, you remember that the oxygen is all flowing through the vaporizer. So it goes into the vaporizer, picks up the isoflurane, and then goes and delivers the iso to the patient. And then there's so much excess that it all goes out the pop-off valve. It's kind of waste that we're paying for. As you know, I can put my practice owner hat on and realize that oxygen consumption is a consumable in my practice. And that if I start to initiate use of the Pediatric Circle, I have the ability to turn my oxygen flow rate down, which means I'm not replacing my tanks all that often, and I'm not filling the vaporizer all that often. So it's like a secret, you know. People in the industry maybe don't want you to know this because you'll be buying less isoflurane and less oxygen if you start to initiate use of the pediatric circuits.
So Nancy, what kind of patients would you not use this Pediatric Circle system? I mean, I'm getting it's probably for small patients and young patients, clearly, but when do you not want to use it?
Well, so just a quick point about age, because you mentioned young patients. I don't typically factor patient age into my decision about circuits, but there is a patient that's going to be too big for the Pediatric Circle, and that's the patient that fits a size 10 endotracheal tube. And the reason is that you always want your circle system hoses diameters to be wider than your endotracheal tube.
Got it. That makes
Because if they're smaller than your endotracheal tube, then you're asking your patient to basically breathe through what would be a straw. Right. I mean, an extreme example would be that there's so much of a difference between the patient's tracheal size and your patient's breathing circuit that there's just a tremendous amount of resistance that you're asking the patient to breathe through that you'd rather just avoid. So that's on the big patient size.
So I get that pediatric is a misnomer. We're talking more patient size. Is there, on the other side of the scale, is there a patient that would be too small for this system?
Yeah, there would be. I'd say below 2 kilograms of body weight becomes the point of diminishing returns. So there's just too much of a difference between your patient's lungs and the volume of your breathing circuit. And so it just makes it very difficult for you to maintain a steady plane of anesthesia such that they don't keep waking up on you.
Okay. So what would you use in the less than 2 kilo patient?
I'd use a Bains circuit.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, in my practice, I had a Bains circuit, a Pediatric Circle, and an adult circle. And we just went back and forth between these three. And it's interesting when a practitioner stops and asks themselves, how many patients do I look after that are less than 2 kilograms of body weight? It's a small population size, generally. Yeah.
That makes
But,
sense.
you know, a general practice will typically use a Bains circuit for puppies, kittens, rabbits, and ferrets, and birds.
Nancy, I noticed you didn't mention the F circuit when you talked about, you know, the 3 circuits in your clinic.
Yeah, don't
Is
use
it
them.
not, you don't, well, that's.
I don't use them. I used to.
Why? Tell me why.
Well, you know, it was interesting. By the time I started using F circuits, I also had a capnograph that I was using to monitor my patients. And this is why I realized, you know, because the capnograph told me in no uncertain terms that there was a lot of dead space in the F circuit that nobody talks about. But I could see it on the capnograph because I could see that my patients were re-inhaling carbon dioxide. Again, it doesn't kill them, but it's just unnecessary.
Well, interesting. But also, I think in the sake of keeping things kind of simple in the hospital, you train your people on the circle system. Then, as you said, the pediatric circle system is just a smaller adult circle system. So principles are going to be the same, keeps it simple. So if it's not in the cards for a clinic to switch to a pediatric circle system, any problems with just hanging on to the Bains?
Oh, it's good that you mentioned that, because I don't want people thinking that they have to run out and change everything that they're doing. So we're talking about these advantages that are not life or death advantages, but just overall improve your patient care by making it easier for you to wake your patients up less cold. So basically the characteristics of the Bains circuit were tested out, and so it was found that, you know, under 10 kilograms of body weight, use a Bain. If you want to keep doing that, that's absolutely fine. You'll just spend a little bit more money on isoflurane and a little bit more money on oxygen. And your patients, if they're under for a long time, your small patients might just be a little bit colder.
Right.
But we're not talking life or death.
Right. So if you're setting up a new clinic, or if it's time to update and upgrade the equipment you have in your hospital, maybe now's a good time to have a well thought out plan and system and a consistency. I like that.
For the sake of the staff.
Yeah. Well, and the pets.
Yeah, and the pets. Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. Thank you, Nancy,
You're welcome.
so much for that information. I look forward to speaking with you again on different topics. I hope you found this video helpful. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.